A year or so ago, I was browsing around to see what was new in the indie world, and I saw this game. It looked like a 2D game, but the movement through the world was unique, and it was beautiful. I didn't know what it was about, and I decided I didn't want to know that much about it, because instantly I knew that I wanted to play it. This is Anno Mutationem. Before we get started, let's head over to Hookkeys and unlock our copy of Windows. By using coupon code TS25, you can get 25% off these prices here. I use Windows 10 Pro. You can also get Windows 10 Home, and both of these will upgrade to Windows 11. You can get that. Also, note that the Windows 10 keys have been working with Windows 11. Google it and make sure that this is still a thing whenever you're purchasing your key. Also, I want to note that if you get Windows 10 Home and you upgrade it to Windows 11, they will force you to use an online account. With Windows 11 Pro, however, you can use a local account, just so you know. You can also get Office 2019 with that same discount, or if you like, you can get Windows 10 Pro and Office 2019 in a bundle and save even more. So go ahead and put TS25 in here as your coupon code, hit apply, and then you can see we can get Windows 10 Pro for $14.85. Once you're finished, if you want to access your key, you click on your name on the top right, click on User Center, and you'll see My Purchase Orders. Right here, you'll be able to view the keys that you've purchased just by clicking on View Keys and Codes. Then you will see your code right here. Just go ahead and copy this code, press Start, type Activate, and you'll see activation settings come up. Click on that, then click Change Product Key. Right there, you can paste in your code and hit Next, and then you will be activated. It's very simple. So don't pay those retail prices for your copy of Windows or Office. Head over to hookkeys.com and use coupon code TS25. It's a weird name, maybe an unfortunate name for people in the West because it's hard to pronounce, but you know, it's now the best in the Anno series, that's for sure. Put about 25, 26 hours into it, and now I'm sad. I've been wandering around the world. There's not really much left to do. It's still the same beautiful world, but I'm done, and I'm not ready for it to be done. Because you see, I started playing this game right after I finished playing Elden Ring. I didn't finish Elden Ring, but I stopped playing Elden Ring for a while. Needed a break from it. You know, Elden Ring, it's like a pair of jeans. They may fit well, and the longer you play it, the more snug and comfortable they get, but it's still a pair of jeans. When I started playing Anno, it was like putting on a pair of pajama pants. This is my cozy game, and this is probably going to be my cozy game for 2022. I may come back and replay this a third time. First, I want to try to tell you what kind of game this is, because a lot of people will look at this and think it's an adventure game. Then some people are going to look at this and think it's a Metroidvania, and they're going to try to throw a lot of like other games, like it's like this game or it's like that game. It's not really like any of those games. It may have elements from some games, but it's a melding of a few different styles that I've never seen done together this well. You explore the world in a few different hub areas in a 2.5D style. Now, the camera doesn't rotate left or right, it just gives you a view, and it allows you to navigate in the 3D world. You can go deeper into the world, or you can, come toward the camera, and the camera will slowly pull back with you to reveal more of the world. Now, most of the backgrounds are 3D with some pixely textures, and the characters are done in a beautiful pixel art style. So it's weird that it works together so well, but it does, and it's gotta be one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. Easily the best looking game I've seen this year, maybe in the last several years. And it's all because of the way this style works. Now, when you first start playing, you're gonna notice it's pretty standard fare cyberpunk. Big buildings, neon lights, crazy outfits, and cool hairstyles and stuff like that. But as you keep playing, you'll realize that it's a lot more than just the cyberpunk style. There's some really cool underground areas, some interesting foliage, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And when it comes to stuff going on, what's the plot? I played Deus Ex Human Revolution. That was one of the last cyberpunk games that I played. And that was very clear. You knew what the plot was. Every character in that story talks about the plot, which is, what are we doing? There's people who are augmented. It's like the people who wrote Deus Ex Human Revolution. They played the original game and they're like, oh, this is a game about augmentation. So every NPC has to talk about how they feel about augmentation. Are humans human anymore? And they really just beat that to death. There's a lot more going on in the world, but it feels like everywhere you go, that's all anyone cares about. It's like, yes, we get the analogy for racism. It's there, yes. But this game's different. It doesn't have a defined plot. I don't even, there's stuff going on, but what is the plot? Is this the plot? I wandered around and talked to a bunch of people. They all have different things going on. There's there's magic involved in this now. Okay, so there's magic, but I just can't. What is the exact? Can someone please tell me what is the plot of this game? Because I can't figure. Is this the plot? This must be the plot. But seriously, this plot is nonsense. This is what would happen if you hung out with a bunch of your nerdy friends, had some drinks, and started asking really weird questions about multiverses, transhumanism, and then, after the ninth beer, one of your friends is like, no, kid me, what if we modified a monkey and it could talk and its voice was super deep?
你好 and flourish 事业编号06执行人计划
That's what this game is about. It's about all kinds of nonsense. And it's really campy. I don't think people get that, because it takes its campiness and it takes its nonsense very seriously, in the same way that Monty Python is very serious nonsense. Well, this game is nonsense, but it's very serious about its nonsense. There's a lot of really interesting themes here that we can pull on. There's a lot of threads that can keep you up at night. For instance, what if people who get modified and people who become part human, part machine, what if they get a virus? How are they going to be treated in society? Are they going to have to go live underground like they do in this game? And then we have a full-on society of augmented humans living underground. And they're all going to become, eventually, a type of zombie. Like a zombie, because they have the virus. And as they get worse and worse, they lose their ability to speak. It's really haunting, and I don't think they really touched on it as much as they could have, or they really touched on the horrors of it all. It's there, and it's something to think about, and it's not the core plot of the game, but it's part of this world, and it makes the world feel bigger and richer, because it's not the plot, but it is there. And there's a lot of things that are like that it's not the plot, but it's there. I mean, even robotics. Anne's dad is a robot. What's that all about? Are we going to have, can robots be parents? What if in the future we have robots that are completely on par with humans? Are they going to be allowed to be parents? Are they going to even have rights in the first place? There's a lot of interesting individuals in this game. They all have their own unique personalities. I find that I really identified with Anne, our protagonist. She's stoic. She's been the protector. There's something very strong about her. She's not too aware of what's gone on with her past, and you have to sort of slowly unveil that as time goes on. The entire plot starts with the point of you needing to go and take care of your brother. You have to find your brother. I believe he's your older brother, but it's you need to go find your brother. Where is he? And that's what's driving you. But as the plot progresses, it becomes, a plot about who am I, what's my origin, and that sort of thing. So she has a nebulous origin that I'm not going to spoil in this video. And apparently, her and her sidekick, Ayane, they work for some sort of an investigation firm. But there's not a lot about that. It made me feel is there a game before this where they actually did some investigation stuff? Are we going to get a prequel? And Ayane is an AI sidekick. She kind of reminds me of Navi. She flies around in this mechanical Navi style thing. She's just a projection. I mean, she's fully there, and they talk about the old days a couple of times. And there's a photo on Anne's dresser or in Anne's room that shows all of them together with their boss at the investigation firm or whatever it is that they worked for. I'm kind of just being vague here because I want you to experience this. I don't want to spoil the plot, but we can talk about the characters and stuff. Ayane is a very deeply melancholic character. Why is she an AI, and why in the photo, why is she not an AI? Did something happen? They mentioned something about an accident one time, but they don't really pull on that thread anymore. That's it. And she's here with Anne, and she is the optimist of the story. Whereas Anne is very stoic and straightforward, and this has to be done, and this is a dark time, and I'm just gonna I guess toughen up and take care of things, and she puts everything on her shoulders. Whereas Ayane she's a hacker. And she's always I can do this, I can knock down any walls, and everything to her is happy and cute. So there's even a melancholy in her optimism. Why is she so optimistic despite the situations being so dark and grim all the time? And then why does she love Anne so much? And is it okay? That's the other question. In this world, is it okay to be gay? Because in some cultures, it's not really a thing, but these characters are clearly, come on. Anne pretends that it's not a thing because she's the stoic, and Ayane is always trying to give her a kiss and give her a hug and trying to get her to wear a skirt and stuff. But no, she's a tough girl. She doesn't wear skirts. She wears pants. She wears a combat outfit. And the scene where Ayane finally has to get a skirt or get a dress for Anne is pretty freaking hilarious. And again, I found that I identified with Anne. There's a few more times where I identify with her, like sometimes you'll start talking to a character and they will just start spouting complete religious nonsense or something. And in my brain, I was thinking like, oh no, I wish I'd never even clicked on this character. And then Anne's response will be like, I'm having second thoughts, or I wish I'd never even talked to this person or something. So it was kind of funny to have like my thoughts, and then as soon as I think them, Anne will say the thing. Or sometimes when, Ayane is professing her love, I'd be like, I'm out of here. And then sure enough, Anne would like, the camera would pan over and Anne would be hiding or she'd be gone. And I'd be like, yep, it's too mushy for me. So I thought all that was really funny. Now, as you wander through the world, you're going to find all kinds of interesting new characters, and they all have their own personalities. They're not all dwelling on the same topics. This is not a single note game. This is an 88 key keyboard playing all the notes at the same time. When it comes to the adventure parts of the game where you're exploring and everything, there's really no investigation. And I feel like this should have been an investigative game, or this should have been a game that had some investigation. There's puzzles, there's environmental puzzles, there's areas that you have a difficult time gaining access to and that sort of thing. But when it comes to the investigation, all of that is defeated by quest markers. That's our big AAA trope number one. When you have quest markers that just tell you exactly where to go all the time, if a character says, hey, I need to get X to fix this weapon so that I can give it to you, and then the quest marker just shows up and tells you exactly where to go to get the item you need to fix the new weapon or to build the new weapon for you. It's just like, okay, so now I just press left until I get to that quest marker, and then I can click on that, and that person's going to be like, oh, I have that part, but you need to get me some, a bag of chips. So then it's like, oh, then the bag of chips comes up on your quest marker and you move to that. There's no investigation involved there. Now, I know it would have required a little bit more development time. My option, if I were, working on this game, I would have argued that we need to give some of the NPCs some dialogue, and we need to make things a little bit more vague. Be like, oh yeah, he's over in the south part of town. I've heard rumors that he has an underground lair somewhere. And then when you go there, you can ask some of the NPCs if they've seen this person or whatever. And that would add another layer onto the game, and it would give you something to do. And it would also be way more rewarding when you finally discover the person or the location that you're supposed to be going to. But the quest markers defeat that. It streamlines the game, and some of the side quests, if not all of the side quests, are really just you clicking yes and going to the next objective marker on your map, clicking yes there and going to the next objective marker on your map. Now, these side quests are worth doing just because some of them are hilarious, they have interesting dialogue, and you're meeting cool characters and unlocking new things in the game, and you're also getting upgrades for your character. But the mechanics of it all is really boring and not rewarding in the least. There has to be a better way to do it. Most of the 3D world, you're just kind of wandering around collecting stuff. Yeah, that's another AAA trope that I wish could be removed from the universe. Junk collection, because it changes the way you play. Like, when you run into a room and there's something going on with the plot, and you need to be going from point A to point B, and you need to be battling these robots or doing something or having a very important conversation. When there's a junk collecting mechanic, most of the time when you run into a room, the first thing you do is immediately rush to every container to search for junk, so you can sell it for 40 credits or whatever it is. It's something that happened in Cyberpunk, and I felt like that really threw off the feel of the game. You could be going, especially in that game, way worse in that game than it is in this game. This game, it's a minor offense. In Cyberpunk, it was a major offense because you would be following someone and they would be having dialogue with you, and instead of paying attention, you were incentivized to run around and click on every desk and drawer and everything in the game to get ashtrays and cigarettes and pack of cards or whatever it is. It's just nonsense. You're collecting junk in this game to get you a few credits, and it gives you something to do. It gives you a reason to run around and explore the world, but I feel like there's could have been better ways to do that. And if they wanted to give you ways to make money, just make some of the other things in the game give you an extra $5 if you need the money that badly. I we haven't talked about the combat yet. We've just been talking about the exploration and that sort of thing. Check this out. When you're going from like the 2.5D, you can move around here, and you're switching over into the combat mode, it locks you to a 2D spline. So now I'm running around on 2D spline, and I have all my moves here and stuff like that I can do. I can jump and I can attack. And as soon as I move into this area, it seamlessly transitions into the 2.5D, and I can no longer jump or anything like that. So it's pretty interesting. Oh shit, run. You bastards. Oh, okay, I've gotten myself into a combat scenario here. Let me just get out of there. Now there's combos and stuff like that you can do, and we have an array of weapons to choose from. So we have our light weapon, heavy weapon, and our ranged weapon. Ranged weapons, this is our ridiculous in-game huge weapon. I don't want to spoil too much by showing too much, but you can upgrade these, you can get new weapons, and each one of them also has sockets for chips. Now the chips will allow you to upgrade certain areas like, your damage. Thermal chip increases damage to cryo type enemies, and then flash over electro type enemies. So you have different ways to up your damage for different enemies. And then if you need to break through their shields, because enemies, some of them have health, some of them have shields, and a lot of them have both health and shields. These AP chips will allow you to penetrate through their shields. So we have the piercing up there, that's the penetrating through the shield. So there's a lot of nuance in how you can put together your character. And above and beyond all that, we also have some talents here that we can upgrade. I'm not going to go through all this. I want you to experience it on your own, but it's generally good to pick a path and then go down that path of upgrades. There are a couple different types of small sword. We have our twin blades, which are much faster than our regular light sword. You have two blades, and it looks really cool. The animations are awesome. So you can pick if you want to use this, and you'll be doing more attacks, more combos, and that sort of thing. Or you can pick if you want to use the light sword. I've done this playthrough because I like the slower light sword. And then we also have a backpack here full of stuff. There's all that junk I have. So the game doesn't have any difficulty modes, and I found that if you don't do this correctly, the game is pretty difficult in the beginning. At least it was for me until I learned how to use a controller, which I'm not very good at. I started out, since I had an Xbox controller on my desk, I started out using that. But then I switched over to this controller here. This is our Syndicate controller. A little minor plug for this because I actually did better with the game using this controller. I find that our sticks here they're a little bit tighter. And I like that for doing the precision moves in these games, because this game allows you to do moves kind of like you would do in Street Fighter or whatever. Moves here, we can see this one is forward, forward X. And that was a little bit difficult to do with the softer analog stick on the Xbox controller. I found it much easier to do with our Syndicate controller. So I like it better for that. Remember, this one's up and X. These are actually pretty fun. But my problem is it's still kind of difficult to do these with an analog stick, like pressing forward, forward Y. And let me show you what happens if you mess up when you press forward, forward Y and it doesn't work correctly, then you get stuck in an animation of doing this. And that takes a second. You have to be very deliberate, and it's very difficult to do, in my opinion, with the analog stick. I think it would have been much easier to do this with the D-pad, and it doesn't make any sense that I can't switch to D-pad. When you're moving around in this area, there's no run. The analog doesn't matter. In this area here, you run at two different speeds. You run at full speed, or you run at the slow speed here. If you want to watch bouncing pixels, you can do that just holding on the L button. But analog doesn't really do anything. So I feel like you should be able to switch the analog and the D-pad. It would be a very nice touch for this game. I would definitely use the D-pad when it comes to running around, especially in these platforming areas. It would be much easier to do the moves. And then we could just, right now we use our D-pad to cycle through our items. That would be fine with the analog stick. I don't see why that would be an issue. So devs, please let me switch my D-pad with my analog stick. I would be better at doing these. The bastard was waiting for me. I would be better at doing some of the moves and stuff like that. But overall, I did find the combat to be very tight, and it kind of reminded me of Icy, but this is like a non-ridiculous version of Icy, where you're still, hovering in the air and doing some melee combos, knocking things like, see if I go up, and there we go, and then we can hit him a few times in midair, then do that. So that's an example of a combo. This one's a little bit too elite to be able to knock up into the air. So we have combos and stuff like that we can do pretty easily. And you do hang around in the air and stuff, but it's not, like I said, it's not as ridiculous as Icy, and you can't dash forever. You have to unlock these dash abilities and stuff. But my main gripe about the combat is after you learn how to do the combat, it gets almost a little bit too easy, especially if you have like gone crazy upgrading your character. So at first the difficulty spike really hit me when I was learning how to play. When I got to the boss named Absalom at first, I had a hard time defeating that boss because I wasn't very good with the controls. And also I hadn't upgraded my player correctly. But after I learned how to upgrade my character, I came back and it was easy. And then as I got better at the controls, it became so that I just didn't die. I didn't even die on the main boss of the game after I'd, upgraded my character and learned the controls. So the game became too easy. And I think this game's going to be weird for people who show up. I've noticed people online complaining that it's too easy, and I've noticed people online complaining that it's too hard. And I think that's because this game is attracting two audiences. It's attracting an audience that likes action combat side-scrollers like Metroidvanias and stuff. While this is not a Metroidvania, it does have some similarities. It attracts that audience. They're very used to the Twitch action combat style stuff. And then it also attracts the audience who love this world and want to explore and have a nice adventure game. And they're kind of like me when I first started playing. They're hitting a difficulty wall when it comes to learning how to play this game. So I think that this game is falling short for both of those audiences. It needs to be more difficult for the audience who's really, really proficient when it comes to action combat, and it needs to be a little easier for people who just want to experience the world and the characters and explore, and they are not really into the action combat. Well, this just in, so I was complaining about the lack of an easy mode, and now if you want to play this just for the adventure and just for the exploration, you can do that. There's an easy mode. I still want a hard mode. I want to play this game one more time, but I want it to be more difficult. And I don't know exactly how that should be implemented, because I think if you just gave all the enemies tons of extra health, that would turn this game into a slog. So my proposal would be that all enemies cause much more damage on the hard mode. The smaller enemies have the same amount of health, so you can still plow through them, just they're going to be more dangerous. And then the bigger enemies can maybe have more health and cause more damage. But until I upgraded my weapons, I was frustrated at how many hits most enemies took, even the ones that weren't that difficult. But, now that I've played the game a little while and I realize after upgrading correctly my character and my weapons, you can really take down these enemies very quickly. Since I've increased my lethality so much and the game allows me to do so, a hard mode where the bad guys are far more lethal, because it would raise the stakes and make the combat more tense. So I'm still waiting for a hard mode, but right now we've got all this cool new stuff that I'm going to dive into today. So if I've played and I've got any new outfits, I'll put them on the screen right now. But I want to say thanks to this developer. They're always improving this game. This game does not deserve these mixed reviews. I feel like that's because the game is mostly misunderstood, or maybe people came in expecting one thing and got another. So hopefully as more and more people discover this game, this corrects a little bit. Also, the soundtrack, we need to talk about that because it's clean and it's good and it's super chill. When you're in the hub areas, just awesome background music, very chill. I love the harbor music. It's probably my favorite music in the game. Just this subtle background music with a little guitar. It almost sounds like a whirly keyboard in there too, I'm not sure. But it fits the world, but it doesn't sound like every synthwave cyberpunk soundtrack on the market. It sounds like its own thing. So while it may be in that genre, there's a little bit of variation going on. And also, in Pixels We Trust. We do have some chiptunes in this game. They can be accessed through the jukeboxes in the world, and then some of the shops just have some kind of like chiptuning music going on. So it's like an homage to older chiptunes, but it also fits the Pixel theme. It's a really nice combination of like synth and chiptuney sounds and stuff like that. But it fits the world so well. But it's also something I would like to listen to outside of this. And that brings me to my last gripe. So I feel like they've done something a little bit greedy here. When you buy the collector's edition for an extra $10, you get some extra stuff. But that extra stuff is only in-game. You get a copy of the soundtrack, and you can listen to it only in the game. If you want a copy of the soundtrack to listen to out of the game, you got to buy that separately. And I feel like that's kind of shitty. Like, come on, like, here we go. We can come over here and listen to this digital soundtrack right here. All kinds of cool stuff in here. But I want to be able to listen to this on my mobile device. I want to be able to I want to be able to listen to this in the background while I'm doing other things, and I don't want to have this open. So that's a really annoying that this is not part of the collector's edition. I feel like it should have been, and I think anyone who purchased the collector's edition should just get a copy of the soundtrack, retroactively send it all out to everybody. Be sure you do the side quest with OK-chan. That's the character up in the top left right there. Be sure you do that side quest. It's a super easy, boring side quest, but the payoff is hilarious. We need to talk about the voice acting because we have 3 different options here, and I want to encourage you to play this in the original Chinese language. Now, having said that, it's subjective, so I'll try to describe a little bit about why I chose the Chinese. First, Anne and Ayane are good in all the languages. They sound good in English, they sound good in Japanese, but they especially sound good in Chinese.
可恶，我被人定位了！怎么回事？你不是做了超严加密吗？这个人很厉害，竟然能绕过加密系统。那怎么办？你会暴露吗？大令别担心，我可是超级黑客，有办法的。I've been tracked.
How? You have complicated encryption.
Oh, they're good. They found a way to bypass it like it's nothing.
What should we do? Can they track your location?
Don't worry, darling. I'm super hacker INA. I can deal with this. 逆されてる。
どうやって超複雑な暗号を組んでるんでしょ？
相当なやり手ね。防壁をすり抜けられるなんて。
あなたの居場所突き止められたらどうする？
ダーリン心配しないで。私スーパーハッカーなんだから方法なんていくらでもある。
If you like musical theater and you like the over-the-top, almost put-on cutesy voice, then let me tell you about the English, because that's the one you're going to like when it comes to Ayane's voice.
The area he frequently visits. Go there first. I'll try to pinpoint the exact location. I bet Hooray wouldn't be able to resist.
What?
Never mind. Let's go inside.
But if that's not really your thing and you want a more subtle delivery that's still upbeat and chipper and happy and optimistic, then the Chinese and the Japanese both sound really good. Now, I've found that most of the male performances in English, they have almost that bad anime dubbing sound. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Just kind of rushed and dudeish. I don't know, like, what's up, man? I don't know. And I also found that the expressiveness was better with the Chinese language. So try a few different ones, but if you're playing the game and it doesn't have the right feel or the characters don't have the charm that you think they should have, try changing the spoken language in the game. So all in all, I would highly recommend that you play this with the Chinese language. It, again, is the original, and the original almost always is the best.
这些恶心的生物，大令已经被你们玷污了。
你在胡说什么啊？
利用那台机器，或许我们能更快地处理掉它们。我已经确认过它可以使用。
I do want to mention the bosses, and then we'll be done. The bosses in this game are awesome. There's a lot of really fun, cool-looking bosses. And look at this thing. This is... okay, this is a piece of construction equipment that's obviously designed to kill people. Like, why would they build this if it wasn't designed to kill people? All right, maybe it's designed to kill this thing. I don't know. This was a really fun boss too. But yeah, there's so many really cool bosses in this game. And I do hope they make an expansion because I'm not done. I'm not done playing this game. The level design is really fun. And I think my favorite area is the underground area where everyone with the Mechanica virus, I believe it is, or the Mecha virus, where everyone with that virus, they're all hiding underground. And it's a forgotten area underground with all kinds of pipes and tubes and stuff like that, just the old city workings. And there's a beauty in that everywhere you look, there's foliage. New life has been springing while everyone is, forgotten here. And all the people there are dying of the virus. They're all part human, part machine. Despite all of this, they're surrounded by new life. So it's a really interesting area that's not like the rest of the game. That's not like anything you see in most cyberpunk games because it's not in the middle of a big city. It's outside of the city a little bit, and it's underground, and yet there's still foliage and life. And it's a really interesting, pretty area. And then you have to go and fight through hordes of mutants. The people down there, they're all together. And then as they get further and further along with the virus, then they start to become mutants. And there's one point where you need to get from point A to point B because of, you're doing your own quest that doesn't really have anything to do with the people who are down there, that doesn't really have anything to do about this whole tragic situation that's down there. You're just going through this area, you're looking for your brother and doing some other stuff. And they tell you the way to go. They fail to tell you that it's filled with mutants and people who are suffering from the virus, and they're going to try to kill you. So you have to clear them out. And then once you've done that, they thank you for clearing them out because, they sort of tricked you into it. But you did need to go that way anyway. So it's like this interesting way to tell a story that's a little bit different from what I'm used to. Like a lot of games you show up in town, especially in RPGs, like Wasteland 3, they show up and they're like, oh, thank God you're here to solve all of our problems. Well, they don't necessarily do that in this game. They'll tell you like, hey, there's this and this and this, and you can reach your objective by doing this. They fail to tell you that they're also, as you're doing this, you're also going to help them. It's a really interesting way to let you feel like you're there, for your own purposes, but you're also taking care of a side quest for the other people that are there. The mixed reviews are probably because I think a lot of people don't know what to expect and don't know what's going on with the plot and don't understand that it's, that all this is nonsense. And I think that a lot of people have come in expecting different things. But if you put that aside and play the game based upon the characters and the experiences and really let a lot of stuff that's going on in the world sink in and you start to think about it, I think you'll have a different appreciation for it. And that's how I came at this. Even after playing it through 2 times, I'm not 100% sure on what's going on in the plot. But I do know that I love the characters. I do know that I love the atmosphere, and I do know that I really want to play more in this world. So hopefully we'll see more, an expansion, a sequel, or even a prequel to figure out what's going on with all this. Let me know if you're playing this game. Let me know what you think of it. Put all your stuff down in the comments. And let me know if you want to see more videos like this, where I check out some different games. I'd prefer to do more indie games like this. And lastly, I do want to give another plug for this. And I wouldn't say this, like I don't care about marketing all that much, but I had a better experience with this than I did with my Xbox controller, and this just works as an Xbox controller. After a while it goes to sleep, just hit the home button and it'll come back on. If you disconnect it and reconnect it and all that kind of stuff, you may have to change the mode of the controller. It goes between Xbox mode and direct input mode, so you may have to hold that down for 4 seconds to change it back into Xbox mode. But if you just leave it plugged in, like I do, and then it's wireless, but I leave it plugged in for charging, and then just wake it back up with this, like it just went to sleep. Wake up. There we go. It needs to charge. So anyway, yeah, one more plug for this. You can get this on epicpants.com, and it's quite a bit less expensive than buying a new Xbox controller, and I think it's better. So do that, epicpants.com, and I'll see you in the comments.